this summer that it's really sort of fun watching all this water rain down upon us. Well, many people are thinking about going back to school at this time of year, and in fact, we're going to take you back to school, way back. And now we'll hear from historian Ken Thied and take a tour of the Akey One-Room School Museum.
Ken Thied, we are at the Akey School Museum on a Sunday afternoon.
Welcome to Akey.
Thank you.
You've got a focus on the welcome sign up front. The original chalkboard still remains. Picture of Della Pauls, the last teacher that was here, and the Pauls family and information that goes along with it.
All right.
As you look at the desks seated here, this would be a standard setting for a classroom in most schools. Smaller desks to the front left, first graders would start there. And then you would find as you go towards the back, you'd have larger kids.
Yep.
And there's actually a study buddy situation in the very back where two students might study together or an older child might work with a younger child. The desk up front here is called the recitation desk. It's a full bench that goes across, and that's where the teacher would bring the students. And if you were up, first and second graders together, third and fourth graders together, the schedule is posted above, and I'll let you zoom in on that up above, just to get the idea that the teacher was very busy. There was no prep time in between. If anything, recess, the teacher was out supervising the students. To the left of the daily program is the 1976 bicentennial calendar for the Lions, and it has the Akey School on it. In the front of the classroom here, many things are available. To the left, you'll see the maps. And we have three globes, one hanging, which could be raised or lowered for students so that they could work with that. That is the oldest one that we have, and it is vintage in sorts.
Is there a year on this?
There is not, and I have not taken the time to look up circa, whatever that might be, but it is the oldest. Down below to the right, you'll see a more complex one. And of course, with longitude and latitude, you could work, discover, find. To the left, near the bookcase, now that's a little bit more modern. When I say modern, it would be 1950s. There's a raised relief map on the chalkboard, as we have it setting there, and that raised relief map that you're looking at right now was quite unusual, would not be familiar for the time. The pull-down maps would be, and you'd find those in most classrooms even into the 1970s. And just to the right of the maps, there's actually a stick that can be used to hook on to the ring and pull it up and pull it down. One of the neatest things we have here at the Akey School is on top of the bookcase. If you can imagine the sun and the planets revolving around it, the Earth and the moon, and as if you pull that silver bar right towards you, Mr. Coach, you're going to find that that will rotate around.
Oh, yeah.
What ingenuity was involved there, huh?
Wow.
Wasn't that super? So let's go through the left side of the classroom and we'll take a look at the right as we close.
I was going to say these globes, boy, have things changed.
Yes, oh, and map-wise. Yes, so you're going to see vintage geography involved there.
Yeah.
Even if you wanted to really focus in on the map pulled down, you can see we've got Richland County. If you pull it down just a little bit more, and there you go. That's Richland County, folks, at that time period. Circa 1960, if you will.
I mean, you've got Siam here on the maps, probably.
Correct. The older globe has that. I have checked it. On the chalkboard to your left, a very controversial, but well known for the time, a book called Black Sambo. And that is a relic. We've got report cards as a part of the pictures. And the flag was always a part of it. But if you'll notice, it doesn't have 50 states on it. It has 48.
Correct.
It'll be a 6x8, 48 flag. More report cards to your left in the picture, to your left. And then the picture above was a standard picture for the time. The plight of the farmer. And it was a very famous picture that was used in the classroom, especially in an agricultural area like Richland County. We're very proud of the museum now having it framed. The support that we received through a bequest. Thelma Cooper donated money, so instead of thumbtacks, we have everything framed. Student work. All along the top of the bookcase are standard books and items that students would have used. You can see the paint by number 8 colors in an Arista painting. Art books are a part. Music books, geography books.
I see there's a company that, compliments of or...
It does, and that's a big part of it.
Children's safety.
Grimm's Fairy Tales is the book right next to it, very famous book. The activity books, mapping books, things students would have used.
Do you have any idea what some of the, when a teacher was hired,
Right.
some of the very strict...
We have that up front, and I'll be happy to pull that out for you.
Some people won't believe this probably.
To the right on the pictures here, we have when the Akey School first opened, July 1976. That's a part of our sequence. We have schools, not all of them, but as many as we could. But there's a panoramic view. It was very common with the 8th grade county graduation. We'll have more pictures over here to the left of the door. The bell still works.
Oh, you
Would
fixed
you like
it, yeah.
Well, and we have it so it takes about 3 pulls. That you can hear it.
Yeah.
To the right of the door as you'd walk in, another panoramic view significantly larger. And a couple of shots, they would be circa 1940s because the gymnasium is a part of those 2 pictures as you look at the old high school that's there.
Oh, yeah.
If you wanted to focus in along the wall here on the right, you'll see what an 8th grade graduation would look like. And that would be the program of the day.
Wow.
Generous donation by the Helen Jacks family, some history books, plat books, information of the area we've included. Common to most schools in the time period, and it's in gold clad as we have it. The Declaration of Independence.
Was this always Akey School?
This was always the Akey School. It was located across the road.
Oh.
The farmhouse was the Lemuel Akey Farm.
Okay.
And so that's how it got its name. And if you were coming to school riding a horse, bringing a buggy, you would leave your horse in his horse barn. The school got rotated, moved over here, put on a cement block base. Furnace is downstairs. I firmly believe it will still work. Clock, it worked last we used it. Just the vibration, things going by on the highway caused it to fall off. So the glass face busted.
Ah.
But again, the last time we had it going, it was working. One of the things that fascinates most students when they come, especially, would be the inkwells. Here's one that is emptied, and here's one that remains. And what's missing from it, because I'm going to have you go to the desk in the back, is a little flip guide.
I'm always going to the desk in the back.
Oh, right here. Yep. And you can see that it rotates, and the reason for that is to keep the ink from evaporating. And then if I were to set in, we do have also the ink quill that would go as a part of it. Teacher's desk, front left. I'd like to point out, saved from the old Richland Center High School, and tribute to Carletta Heidi, a 1910 original desk from the original high school.
And this is the teacher's desk, you said? Or
That would be an original teacher's desk. And of course, this is the teacher's desk for the
so
school.
these are the textbooks or something?
They were, and that's correct. Histories and information, what would be standard for a teacher? 2 bells. This one would be used probably at recess if they were outside or to get their attention. Not common to the time period would be the Kleenexes, which we have. But if you take a look at this pencil sharpener here, and look at how it slides out for the lead. I'll have you come around and rotate. When you sharpen, that is really unique.
Very futuristic.
And what you'd have is you could have different sizes of pencils. That would be a part
What
of it.
brand is that?
You know, I've never looked at the brand.
Dandy, I think.
Okay.
I don't think they're around anymore.
The 2 bookcases up front are not part of the school. They were donated, but we've got so many books. In fact, we've stopped accepting books and we've turned it over to the Richland County History Room at the Brewer Library. Crystal Foley does an excellent job. And we had originally, with the books that we had in 1976, a catalog of them, but we've had so many more wonderful books donated that we've lost track of that, to the point that now we have so many. The most obvious book, which I'd like to point out, many people will remember, Fun with Dick and Jane. And this is a vintage. That would be a 1954 version of the book. And you'll recall Spot. There is a large, big book up front below the chalkboard that would have been used for the 1st and 2nd graders. And if you'd like me to open that up, because
Yeah.
it is significant. You can see the size of print
Wow.
and what would have been used for the elementary classroom. As you walk back, and I'd like to point out to you, we have 4 different styles of desks here. The standard flip-up seat with the bookshelf underneath. Most people will remember the metal ones that had a flip lid to it. We don't have any of those, but we do have one that has the bookcase on the side. Very unique.
Oh.
And you can see how that is noticeably different. And then we have also the 4th kind is a pedestal seat, if you take a look, and how that would be. And of course, it doesn't have the flip top, it still has the bookcase underneath. George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, often apart. And here's your trivia. If you'd like to check out our display of pictures, we have one up there of Washington and Lincoln standing side by side. And I always ask the students why that could not have been possible.
And what do they say?
They don't know, and they think that the presidents all lived at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, Washington had passed away well before Lincoln would become president.
Mm-hmm.
If you would stop up to the front one more time, you can see what an actual diploma would have looked like from a graded school, which I think is, as we've got it framed, very unique.
Now, what? When was this built? I know you said it was across the road, but
This dates back to the 1870s. I'd like to point out the ruler. If you take a sweep across it,
yeah.
C. Meadows Company, fine furniture. Take a note of the phone number. That would have been the old operator operating that one.
Yep, you pick up the phone and.
Yes. Entryway. Relics from schools in Richland County, the actual planning book of the teacher, and if you're able to focus in, we have a good history of the one-room schools. If you were to visit the Akey School, we'd invite you to take a newsletter. We'd encourage you to consider joining the organization. When you arrive at the Akey School, we ask you to sign in. But also, as you exit, you'll see the toys with hoops, a small ball, the ice skates, the jump rope, a plastic bat, which would not have been common to the time period. And then I always point out to the students the Pledge of Allegiance. This would have had to have been after 1954.
Because of Under God.
Because of Under God being added. And that makes it unique.
So there wouldn't have been, you said what year, 1850?
1870.
Okay, there were no, well, was the heat always in the basement? The heat
Excellent
source?
question. So that I cannot answer, but to the building, and there's even, if you look up in the front along the wall, it's a damper where the teacher could control how much heat would come, and you can see the little pull chain, and then of course on the flooring, the return air vent.
Okay.
We did take out the air duct, you can still see where that would be, but that was just for room because it really didn't serve a purpose for us. The water pail, that would be very common. If you were in a log or a wood house, they would have had where you brought in the firewood, and many times the members would contribute by bringing in a cord of wood per family. Would not be uncommon. The one thing you can't forget as you depart the school is behind the door, all the lunch pails that we have in a varied style, some dating back to the 1800s as the tin was made, and some more recent ones, obviously with designs on them. And I'll turn this so you can get a good shot of it. That would probably bring back memories.
Now the teacher, Jerry Bauer, when I did my last tour, said that they were pretty strict about they had to be single or something like that.
Either single or for women.
Yeah.
Or
of course,
if they're male, to be married. They had strict requirements. Standard pay would be less than $1 a day when they first started. The rules of behavior, not being out after dark. Many times they would live with a family and rotate from family to family, month to month, so that they would have a place to stay.
Someone told me that they were often responsible for starting the fire in the morning, the heat source.
Not only starting the fire, but they did the sweeping of the floor, they did the mopping with the wintertime. They were the custodian, the recess supervisor. They weren't the cook because you brought your own meals.
Was there a place for the kids to heat up their soup or whatever they brought?
If you had a wood stove in the school, and many did, you could set it on top. They would often do that with the water. Now, if you take a look out the window, you still can get a shot of the old outhouse. We do need to do repairs to it, and the trees are growing in and over it. It's a two-seater, in case you're curious.
Yeah.
And kids would always ask, why are there two seats? Well, there's no divider. You'd sit side by side if you had to go. You wanted to be there.
$30 a month pay. That's not very good.
No, that's what it was back then. Two handouts that we have. Thelma Cooper, our donor, and we have a little handout out involving that. Generous donation, so we really were able to upgrade. We did put in new windows, but we wanted to make them look authenticated. We have the original lights. The shades obviously are not a part, but we tried to go with a vintage look to it. We actually used dimmer light bulbs rather than being so bright.
This would have had gas lamps to begin with.
Correct.
Okay.
So this again, after 1937, I believe it was, when Richland County got electricity, the rural electric, but through the 40s and 50s. And many of the schools closed as of the early 1960s, 60, 61, 62.
Do you know when this one had its last
60 would have been.
60.
With school consolidations.
So these students would have gone to Gotham?
So Gotham had a high school. Now
Yeah.
realize, so the question was whether it was consolidated or joint.
Okay.
And so the difference between what you're looking at now, many joint school districts, and that's what we were here at Akey, meant that you had a part of the county affiliation. Consolidated districts means that you would bring together 2 or 3 different schools and make them a part.
Did Twin Bluffs ever have any kind of a school?
To my knowledge, there wasn't a graded school there. It's not to say they didn't have a school dating back to the late 1800s, you see. Realize there were at one time well over 120 schools in the county.
So you didn't have to travel real far, kind of like a cheese factory.
They would say within walking distance was 2 to 3 miles
Okay.
in each direction.
So those stories are true about when I was a kid.
Walking both ways uphill and snow.
Right, even in September or May.
Probably stopped at the apple orchard in the fall, and in the spring they may have stopped along the creek.
Well, it's time to get ready for thinking about going back to school if you're a student or a parent of a student. And the Richland County Fair is coming up September 6th through 9th. We also hope you'll come back next week and every week to watch our town.